Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry. So your voice got cut off and it ended. So yeah, welcome again.
Yes,
Yeah, and like I was saying, it's really nice of you to join. Thanks for joining.
not a problem. It's a pleasure to be part of your podcast. I've been listening for a bit.
Thank you, thank you. And yeah, it's interesting to listen to other people's perspective and about the game. I'm really honored. And so just to introduce yourself, can you introduce yourself? I know that you do this playthroughs on Twitch. I think Blades of Light and Shadow you're doing currently, and before that you did with the Freshman, and also I think you're the part of the Jerry and Eric Talk. That's a podcast on Spotify, if I'm not mistaken, and I think you do one episode of Choices Book Ranking. So I'll be linking that in the comment section below. So those of you guys listening in can check him out and the awesome work he does on both Twitch and on the listening platform. So just introduce yourself a little bit.
Yeah. So my name's Eric. On Twitter, you can find me at Neric Mitch. And for our podcast, it's at Jerry and Eric One. Like you said, I just started streaming playthroughs. I did Freshman Book One, and then I switched over to Blades of Light and Shadow now. I do it Monday evenings. Usually start about 9:30 Eastern time, and then go for an hour or two, depending on how long the chapters are. And our podcast, really, it's just a podcast. It's not primarily going to be about choices, but we decided to do a 5-parter where I rank my top 50 choices books. And I've released two of the episodes. One I did with Jerry, and then one with Jerry and Brandon, who records with you. And then I have one coming up with Martian Cat, and one with Fishty Buns, and then we're going to be doing one with V from Play Choices podcast to round up the top 30.
Okay. Hmm. Yeah. Brendan, yesterday, not yesterday, the last day mentioned that. And yeah, I also listened to your intro. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I thought I lost you again. Yeah. So, can you please tell me, because I find it really interesting. Like, how did you get into choices? I mean, what was your first story, and how did you discover this app? And when you first started playing it, and what did you feel about the book, and what time it was?
Yeah, so I started Choices really early on after launch. I was playing a mobile game, probably Temple Run or something like that, or Candy Crush, and it came up as an ad, and I decided to download it. First book I played was The Freshman. I started when when Freshman Book 2 was weekly releases, so it was really early on in the app. So I've been playing Choices for a while, and then just about within the last 2 years, I found the community on Twitter, everybody that talks about choices. So I just started discussing choices with people, and it really adds a lot to the game to be able to play and then talk about it with people.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely it. So, so since you started playing choices, it seems like you've been playing choices for a long time because I joined in late 2019, almost October, and I've played some of the books in choices. So, out of the books you have played, what would you say is your favorite book? Or like, I know it's hard to choose just one, but some favorite books and some favorite love interests, or like just genuinely just characters. So, what would you like to say?
Yeah. So for books, not to put to take too much of a spoiler out of what we'll be doing, but some of my favorite ones. I love the Freshman series, mostly because it's the first one I read, and I romance Becca in that series. I love Bloodbound, The Crown and the Flame. I usually romance Val in there and Camilla in Bloodbound. Out of the recent books, I love Blades of Light and Shadow. I love the fantasy aspect of it and the lore that the book creates. And I'm really looking forward to when they finally release book 2. I love Queen Bee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely a stand for Poppy and hoping that they make her a love interest in book two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Queen Bee is really a great book, and yeah, I get the point with Poppy. I mean, probably she wouldn't be evil anymore because I think there's going to be a new antagonist. So yeah, that room can sort of open up for our main character.
Yeah, they'll definitely have to do a bit of a redemption arc with her because I mean she was really a horrible person in book one. Even though a
Yeah.
lot of people are a fan of her, she was really a horrible person. So they'll definitely have to do a redemption arc
Yeah,
to
definitely.
really get her to the point.
Yeah, like Becca, right?
I think it's even worse than Becca because I mean Becca was bad, but
Not
definitely
that
not
bad.
at the level that Poppy was. Like
Yeah,
Poppy
but
is, I
mhm.
mean, she's really a horrible person, and I mean, part of me hopes they just leave her as like a fling off and on, and then part of me just wants her to get that redemption arc and be a love interest.
Yeah, I totally feel that. I mean, the way the ending, like, sort of cat fight scene went with MC, Poppy and MC sort of fights, then you get the option whether you can, like, pull her hair or you can kiss her. So, those kind of lines, do give me hope, like you're saying that, yeah, she can be our love interest because even when we're fighting at the end chapter, at the end moment, like, the options we were given. So, yeah, anything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, it really plays in. I mean, you watch almost any TV show, and you get that characters who's just an asshole, and the fans end up cheering for them, and then they have to turn them around and redeem them to make them a love interest in like a show. It's kind of the same thing with Poppy.
Mm,
Um, so at a certain point, I hope they don't change her too much that it takes away who she is.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I feel you can't have her just be a full on bitch like she was in book one.
yeah, definitely. That's interesting. That's just. Um, and good news also is that Queen Bee 2 is going to be released in September. So just one more month, and then the whole campus drama, the tea, and the new mystery villain, and everything's going to be back. And last year, I think because of the pandemic, even the Choice Store wasn't, releasing much, in the later half of the year. But the books like Nanny Affairs and specifically Queen Bee, it was like a bombshell drop from them. And it really cheered everyone up at that moment around this time last year.
Yeah, I think Queen Bee. I'm sure you can tell by anybody can tell from my tweets. I'm definitely not a fan of the Nanny Affair. I play it, but I'm not a fan. Like I really didn't like book one. Um, but
Yeah,
I see why people like it. I didn't get it. It just wasn't my cup of
yeah,
tea.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, but Queen Bee was like the highlights of the last year because it was everything, it was included there. Yeah, I totally get the point. So in choices, what would you say is your like favorite genre? Like what kind of genre is your favorite? Like it's mystery, horror, or like a romance genre, or like sort of a game show like America's Most Eligible, or I think that's kind of similar with Queen Bee. So what would you say is your favorite genre?
I would say the fantasy books, Crown and the Flame, Blades, that type of thing. I love Hero. I was so upset when that one wasn't getting a
Oh yeah,
sequel because it ended on a huge cliffhanger, and then they just leave you there after
definitely.
promising a book two for years. So I
Yeah.
would say my favorite is definitely the fantasy books.
Yeah. Yeah, last year I remember around February or at the end of January, the Blades of Light and Shadow released, and it was like a great book. And I think you put out a tweet saying today or yesterday saying that the chapters are really long. So yeah, so when I first started playing that, the chapters of Blades and Light of Shadow were really really long, specifically the first two chapters. So they released two chapters altogether, and then it took me 1 to 2 hours to complete them.
Yeah, like on when I streamed on Monday, I did the first two chapters, and it was the stream was 2 hours. Reading all the content. I took all the bonus scenes. I did all the side quests. I got the tablet that gives you all the lore on the different races, and there's just so much content in it, and definitely a book that you need to. It's definitely not a diamond mine book. Like you need to take those scenes
Yeah,
because
definitely.
without taking those scenes, it's not a good book without taking the scenes because you need all that extra story.
Hmm. Yeah. And I've also seen like this doesn't feel like just a story, it does feel like a real RPG, a game you're playing, because the way you can choose your skills, the combats, and then like you
Yeah,
said, the side quests, social quests. So it does feel like
like
I'm like playing
it
a
really
complete.
reminds me of a Final Fantasy game or a Link Zelda.
Hmm. So yeah, so that's a very good work from choices there. Blades of Light and Shadow, definitely.
Yeah, I'm just hoping they don't, because so often the first book's so good and then
Second book,
the
yeah.
sequel's underwhelming. So I'm hoping they don't do that with that book. Like you look at Open Heart, and each sequel just got worse and worse. So
Hmm.
hopefully
Yeah.
they hopefully they I like that they're taking the time to do the book.
Hmm.
So hopefully they do it justice because they're taking their
Yeah.
time with it. They're not rushing it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think they got fair time. I think till last year, they still have like 2022 early, so they still have fair time. So I think, yeah, and they also understood that because this was a very popular book in choices, and the second book would have to live up to the expectation. So yeah, I think it's going to live up to the expectation because the amount of time they're taking and the investment in that. So yeah.
Yeah, because you look at like the Elementalists, and I thought they rushed book two.
Yeah.
They probably could have taken a bit more time, fleshed out some of the story for book two for
Mhm.
Elementalists, and I mean it was still a good book, but it felt a lot. It felt really rushed, and I'm glad they're not doing that with Blades. They're giving the writers time to flesh out the story.
Course. Yeah, I agree with that because the book one was so nice with the elementalist, and when it started off, like someone's attacking us, we don't know the enemy, and the concept of blood magic. So it felt like a horror genre at one point when there's like blood magic and those, Rife, I think his name and stuff. But the book one was completely awesome, and then book two, we had some mystery with our mother, so maybe they could have held back our mother and brought her back for book three with another cliffhanger, another villain. That would have been super awesome, like ending with a trilogy.
Yeah, and I don't think that the villain in book two was as good as the villain in book one. Like you
Hmm.
said, like it had a nice, it's a nice fantasy slash horror subplot to the first book, with the blood magic and Rafe trying to steal your powers because he needs the powers of the twins. And you didn't get that in book two. You didn't get that horror side of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, book two in general showed a lot. Like, for instance, I think Aster. I mean, she came into the university, and also we get some nice in with the wood name, their history we see. But in terms of the main villain, yeah, I agree with you that it was not like that horrifying. Because I think Ken, it was like a villain, but also there were more to him because we also needed to impress him, sort of. And depending on that, so
Yeah, they
he will
like
have a certain, right?
he was almost like a minor love interest.
Yeah,
Like I don't think you could full on romance him, but you can definitely you can definitely side with him on a lot of things. Which and it
mm,
just I just felt it took away from what the villain should be.
exactly. Yeah, so that was that. But the side book they sort of did for the winter solstice, that was super awesome. I mean, 4 chapters, but the concept was solid good.
Yeah, they usually drop the ball in a lot of shorts. Like you look at the shorts for the freshmen, and they're all pretty bad. And I didn't really care for the one for the royal romance either, but I didn't I enjoyed the one for the elementalist.
Yeah, because it sort of reminded me of the hunting of Breadwood Manor. Because the story sort of like that. So it sort of reminded me of that, like short but good, full of horror thing, and also nice at the end. A reunion sort of feeling you get is that, and also both the books are set in winter season.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm a huge fan of the Haunting of
Yeah,
Briar Manor. I love that book.
yeah,
It's a really short book. You can get in and out of it within an hour and just sit back, read it quick, and it's just really well done story.
yeah. I totally agree. Like short and sweet, and also like I read the book a long time ago now, but the what caught my eye was like Eleanor. I mean, she's the main protagonist, love interest. Also, I can see of this book because Victor, I think, is another love interest, but Eleanor is like more present in the book, and how she, how we get her back to human life again. I didn't get that part because I think she was dead like her brother and her siblings, but they go to, I don't know, heaven, or like they get free, but we can get her back. We could feel the heartbeat for a moment. So did you get that part by any chance?
I think it's just it's taking that leap. All of them could have lived, because
Yeah.
I definitely agree. It didn't really make sense why only she was able to come back. I don't know if it's just because um, because if you don't romance her, then it's just power of friendships bringing her back. Whereas if you do romance her, then it's like a second chance for love. And I definitely, so I think it's just a leap of faith. It's like they don't fully explain it, but it's just taking that leap of faith that you know love. You're getting that second chance. You're not losing somebody who's your soulmate, and it's
Yep.
having a soulmate in different times of life.
Oh
Like just because Eleanor's lived in like the late 1800s, early 1900s, and we're in the modern day.
yeah.
So it's that thought of maybe my soulmate was from another time, but now I don't have to be alone.
Yeah, yeah, it was nice. Do you think like if we choose the dimension of getting Eleanor back because she's from like early 18th century and we're getting her back, and I think we were given one less
Did I lose you?
dimension and we actually meet up with the characters of freshmen, I think, in the campus, and we talk with them, and they also say, "Wow, like who's your friend?
Hello?
She sort of speaks different English." So, do you think that if they had given us like one or two more chapter with like how Eleanor fares in this modern time and what sort of things we get up to, because a lot of
Hello?
fun things can happen. She can get her in trouble, like how she reacts to car, video games, mobile phone. Sort of, they could have done that for one more or two more chapters. Do you think that?
Hello?
Hey, sorry. So I think we got disconnected for some reason, but now you can hear me clearly, right?
Yes, I can hear you again.
So I think I fixed it. So I have the first part that we talked about for almost 18 minutes or so. So did you get the last question I asked?
Yeah, so you had asked about Eleanor coming back and my thoughts on that.
Yeah, yeah. Like, do you think they could have done like two more chapters on that, sort of how Eleanor would have like fared in this modern life, like how she would have reacted with the cars and video games and mobile phones, and like just to get one more chapter like with a happening. Could they have done that?
I don't think so. I like how it ended. I like the that it's open to what the reader wants to think next. The story
Yeah.
is really about the mystery of dealing with death. For the main character dealing with her brother's death, Eleanor dealing with her own death and what happened with her mother. And I think if you add on more, it's taken away from what the book's meant to be, which is a horror story that helps you overcome feelings of loss.
Yeah.
So I think it just takes away from what the story's meant to be if you add more. I like the ending of you choose to save Eleanor, and then you have the little scene in the cafe where you see the Caitlin and Zach and Tyler and you're just ending. It ends on a happy note because you're getting that second chance at love, but it's not taken away from the story of loss.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, this definitely is like 6 chapters, I think, short but really sweet and awesome. I mean, the content there is like super awesome.
Yeah, it's a nice concise story. They don't drag along the plot. You get in, you get out, and you get a good story out of it.
Yeah, definitely one of the best books and choices, and books from early days. That's also that. So, did you play Veils of Secrets?
Yes. So I've played everything in choices. Every book that's currently completed, I've completed. Like I've completed all 105 completed books and shorts.
I mean, I'm not in front of you, but I don't know. Like, I should take a bow because that's a huge thing. Because I mean, I understand how it's like to finish all the books, to read through them, and read through like books like the Royal Romance, or you have like multiple books, multiple even spin-offs. You have America's Most Legible High School Story. So it's just awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, like I've been playing since almost when Choices launched. So I've been playing for close to 5 years now, I believe. I think they're almost at their fifth anniversary.
Yeah,
So it's a little when they hit their fifth anniversary, I would have started a few months after that. So I'm
that's
coming up on 5 years of playing Choices, and I've never really stepped away to take a break or anything. Like I've just played consistently. I mean, in the last year, there's times where I felt like ditching it, but most of the time I just read it so that I can discuss it with people that I've gotten to know on Twitter, like
oh,
yourself, V, Cat, Jerry, Amber, Ari. So
um,
I like going on Twitter after the book's launched and talking about it with people. So that's really having that community has really added to the game.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, when I don't get much books and choices, like the currently releasing books, I mean, not currently by like the books that are releasing now, but say at one point, the books that are being released, I don't like them much, or that are not what I really want. That happened at one point last year. So what I do is like I just go back because even there are some books, for instance, Veil of Secrets. It doesn't matter how many times you read, it definitely takes you by surprise. And my first book, High School Story. I have read it through thrice. I'm currently reading it for fourth time because it's just super awesome and like America's most legible. So yeah, so I can understand your feeling. Like it's choices is a place where if you be with choices, then you can never leave it because it's just more than games and more than stories. For instance, like how sort of I don't think it's like how I feel about it personally. That the recent books, I think it's just they're definitely good and all, but I think in like America's Most Legible High School Story old days, even inside the story, you get to learn a lot from them to like how to talk or like you said about the dealing with loss. At the same time, if someone's going through something, so how you talk with them, what you tell them, sort of how to react, because sometimes a lot of people don't know that. So if you play choices, they really do write it super well because if they're writing it, so they need to research on it or they need to come up with the best reaction, and they do that. And the way that they used to choose the timed choices or normal choices. So and also the diamond scenes with like it was not only about like hookup scenes or intimate scenes, but just get to know the person. Doesn't matter it's a love interest or just a friend, but the beautiful background and then nice music and awesome dialogues. So it would feel like you have never been to those places, but choices would like sort of take you to that place. For instance, when I played what was the book? The Big Sky Country. I felt like I was in like some small town in USA. So that's just super awesome about choices.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like Big Sky Country is like a perfect example. Like I fully expected that to. I'm just going to play, not take any choices, and just grab the diamonds at the end and move on. And I ended up loving the story. The characters were great. I love Juliet as a love interest.
Me too.
Um, and it was really well done. Like both books, I thought two books was the perfect length for the series. It didn't drag it on, but
Mm,
I mean, there's parts of book two like I could have done without the election. I thought the election in book two really dragged it down. Um, but overall, like it's just the characters were really good. And on the opposite side, you got Baby Bump, where it's a self-contained two-book series, but I didn't care about the characters the way that I enjoyed the characters in Big Sky Country.
of course. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So it really comes down to if you're going to do a story like that, you have to have good characters that you want to read about,
Mm, yeah.
and that's
Big
I
stuff.
think the biggest
Yeah, yeah, go
problem
on.
with Nanny Affair for me is that you they if you they're making you have that single love interest, but
Mm,
it's the romance part of it is too rushed. I mean, you're basically in love with Sam from chapter one.
exactly.
Like I was
Exactly.
saying with some people, what they should have did in book one is what they're doing with. Like I know Jordan's not a love interest. They're not.
No,
I mean, you might get one scene with them eventually, but you're going to end the book with Sam. It doesn't matter what you do or what you want. But
mm,
if they would have did it as a slow burn, where you're earning that romance throughout the book until you get to the point where you're confessing your love to them, that would have been a better book than starting the book and basically being in love with Sam from chapter one.
yeah.
Like
I
it's way too quick.
yeah. I totally agree with that. I am absolutely in. I mean, you just said everything that I feel about this, the nanny affair. I totally agree. So at one point, I think we say that the nanny affair book one was like a slow burn or the forbidden romance, but it totally started like with the body attraction and just hookup and sex. So we never really got to know our souls, and sort of from there we went into that. That was good. You know, and at one point when Sophia and Sam were getting married, then we were sort of getting away from them. So at that point we were just desperate to get to Sam, so that was like really nice. Every reader would, like, get to Sam. But at this point when like the thing we're getting with Jordan, I absolutely, I mean, you just said what I was going to say, like I said. So yeah, so with Jordan what we're seeing, because I know like Jordan was doing probably, like you said, she's not the love interest, or they're not the love interest, but the way it's going, it's sort of how in old days, like in America's Most Legible, another book, how you got to know one character a little bit, then one kissed, and from there a little more, then at the end you get a big diamonds into like a big intimate moment. So like that, getting to know them, and it was like we haven't met the boss, and we seen our dream, we're hooking up with the boss. So at that point it was sort of like kind of obvious. So someone said it's like a smut story, you can either take it or leave it. So I think that was a really good quote.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand from a little bit from the MCs being infatuated with Sam because Sam's a public figure, CEO. Well, I guess not CEO yet, but it's clear that she's a public figure. She's in the news. People know who she is, or he is, depending if you play male or female. But how quickly Sam is infatuated with the MC doesn't make sense to me.
Exactly.
It's not earned. It's like right away, right away, Sam's ready to throw it all out the window. Like they don't know that Sophie is having an affair at that point, but
Mm,
but Sam's right away ready to just throw everything out the window for her and try to be with
something.
MC. I mean, yes, throughout the book, they drop the things like, oh, I can't, I'm going to marry Sophia no matter what. So you're basically playing it as you're the side girl. But it's just how quickly Sam is infatuated with MC just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. They could have done more, like, but again, I think they totally tried to do it as because just as like like an attraction story, just like you first get attracted by about sex, and then from there you go. So that is that. But yeah, when like what they're doing with Jordan, seeing that, it seems like it seems genuine, because what Sam, it was like mainly sex, and from there. But with Jordan, it seems like, wow, if we had gotten with that with our main love interest, it would have been super awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I mean, like you mentioned, America's Most Eligible. Like if you do with Sam what they did with Jen in that book, where Jen's the your boss, she's your producer, but
Yeah.
you're not, you don't get you have little moments with them. You kiss them a few times throughout the book. You have little touches and looks. And then when she gets to the point where she gets fired near the end of book one, you have the option for that sex scene, but you built up to that. You're not just book chapter
Yeah.
one and two and ready to have a sex scene with them because all of a sudden, for some reason, Sam's infatuated with you when she just met you. With Jen, you're building that up. You're slowly building up that relationship till you get to the point where they can't help themselves anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. That just adds more to the story because now I personally feel, like every chapter you get one hookup scene with Sam, so it kind of becomes obvious. So it's just, but and when, like I'm saying again and again, on the other hand, when we see, I know like Jordan is nothing in this book, no one in this book, but still that gives me feeling like, that's the genuine how things should start, how a seed should be shown in a love interest. That's how it should like initiate. But yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, sure, there's going to be moments where you're going to jump in really quick. It's just it didn't make sense in that book, like because I don't know. It didn't feel earned. Whereas like you look at Witness, they started as they hook up with each other, and then you find out who you're expecting to have a one night stand, and then you find out that the person who had a one night stand is going to be your bodyguard. Not saying Witness is a good book in any way because it's my least favorite book in choices, but that it made sense with how quickly that they have attraction to each other. Because, but I don't see the nanny affair just didn't make sense with how quickly Sam went down that road with MZ.
yeah, I totally agree with that. And even with like Queen Bee, like said, the professor and main character they have a hookup scene, and they get to know the next day they're professor and students. So how things change, how they start coping with that's also like a genuine thing.
Yeah, because you have the hookup scene, and then it's hard to turn off those emotions. But you don't. Sam didn't have that with Anna or MC or whatever you choose to call the MC and Nanny affair. With Queen Bee, you have that hookup. So when you find out that Ian or Ina is your professor, that attraction on both sides is already there because of the hookup.
Yeah, okay, yeah, for sure. That was that. Yeah, so like I think we're talking about Veils of Secrets. So how did you? I mean, I think there's just only one book of like mystery genre for non VIP players as of now, and that's this Veils of Secrets, and it really tops everything. So when it came out, I think you played when it was being released. So how did you feel?
I absolutely love that book. It's an amazing mystery. Um, it was fun playing it week by week because each episode ends with a little bit of a twist, and it's
Cliffhanger.
just so many twists and turns throughout the book, and it touches on so many things because you got a small town, you got a rich family, everything, you got the corrupt cops, and then you got that twist at the end with Duffy being the actual villain.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this book and It Lives Beneath. I mean, these two books in choices are like the best in terms of, like the saying goes, they're going to keep you guessing. So, like, you keep guessing, okay, so you're so sure, like, this is the criminal, this is the one, and then no, something big happens, and it continues till the end. And Veils of Secrets is the book, like I said, we have the rich douchebag sort of people, and then we have Walsh. And by the way, you talked about Poppy being a mean person, but I think when I was playing this book, Veils of Secrets, Walsh really got to me because I know he's not the main antagonist in the book, but when we were so helpless and hopeless about finding Kate, we went to Walsh for help and he didn't do anything. So always like denial and ignorance and not doing anything. And even if we tried to do anything, the way he threatened us. So it was really getting to personally me because, and that's a really good, character they made and really awesome story, like you said.
Yeah, because they walk that line really well in making the characters horrible, but not making them caricatures. It's just really well done because they definitely could have went too far with it and just made it campy and caricatures of what the characters are, but they do it just enough where he's a horrible, corrupt cop, and he's blocking what you and Naomi are trying to do to find Kate. But they don't get to the point where he's like a cartoon villain.
Totally. But yeah, like I and also like no one could have thought Duffy was the criminal and was the main culprit, and he planned all of this. So that was really a good disguise, because sort of how he acts, and so if you watch any like good criminal series and this kind of crime movie, so it's just well written and well hidden from plain sight, and it was like that. Well done.
Yeah, because I kind of guessed it when I was playing. I did start to guess that Duffy was going to be more than what he was once they started revealing the storyline about the illegitimate baby.
Hmm.
Because I was like, well, I feel like that's going to come back somehow. And then you get the Russian the
Nikolai.
Russian guys saying that he saved the baby. So I'm like, well, that baby's going to come back. And then I was like, I don't see them just introducing a character that you haven't seen yet. But even then, even the reveal was still a great reveal when he just snaps and shoots Walsh in the head.
Yeah, and
Uh,
like, yeah, the music and the sort of the artwork, like he's holding a gun. That was wow, shocker.
yeah, like you've just saved Kate. Walsh gets shot in the head. He takes Kate and throws you in the jail cell.
Hmm. Yeah. I sort of doubted that uh, like he's the bad guy when he sort of fired at Nikolai when we were just about to get the truth out of him. But then he said did that because he also puked because he never killed a man before, he said. So I thought he was so genuine, and I never doubted him again. But yeah, that was a great turn up. Um, so Fails of Secrets is definitely one of the great books. Um, so do you have any plans to stream this book? Because I don't think anyone has streamed this book yet.
Possibly if nobody jumps on it, probably closer to maybe Halloween. Because what I've decided to do is like treat each book of the freshman like a semester. So like Blades is like the winter break, and then I'll go into freshman book 2. So in between each freshman book, I'll do a different book, kind of just to break it up. So right now, Blades is long, so Blades will probably take me a while to make it through because I think it's 16 chapters. So if I do 2 chapters a week, that's 8 weeks. So that's 2 months. So then I'll probably do book 2 and then look at
October.
doing maybe Feel the Secrets in between book 2 and book 3 of the freshman,
Hmm.
possibly.
Yeah, so that's December or November. Yeah, that'd be super awesome. Yeah. There's one more book that's kind of really interesting. Nightbound. It has just one book. It's kind of similar to Bloodbound, and we also get one character in Bloodbound. And from I think the graveyard shift, we get them in one of the winter, special book of Bloodbound.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. They cross over. I like the idea of having a side book where it's the same world. I do wish they built it out more
Mm,
and connected the books a bit more because I think they could have had. It's almost like having the Arrow first, where you have two. You have the Flash and Arrow, and you can have crossovers. So I do wish that they would have fleshed out Nightbound a bit more than one book. I thought there's definitely enough story elements there that they could have turned that into a series.
Mm.
And I was sad that they didn't, because I did enjoy the book, and they definitely could have fleshed it out more and continued it as a series.
Mm. Yep, definitely. I mean, there was one theory someone told me about this, is that at that time, I think, I don't know, because I was not presenting choices at that time. I just read it early 2020. So, like he said, Open Heart and I think Ride or Die, these two books were being released at that time. And these were so famous, and there was another book. So, this book just didn't get much attention at that point, and that's why they had maybe planned to give it a sequel, but it went into hiatus at one point. You can tell me more because you were present at that time. And then when it came back, they sort of rushed it because, and they gave me a good point saying like at the end, if you see, sort of, it was point because the brother was an evil guy and he ran away. But then at the end, you see like the brother was being eaten by a alligator, and also. There were more secrets like why the fate chose us and why the fate who I think we get to know the fate appointed Nick Rider to protect us, but why was that? And there could have been more, so we were deprived out of that. So that was a theory that they told me. So what do you think about that?
I think, honestly, I think it just wasn't as popular as they had expected. Um, like I said, like there's enough story element points that they could have did a series, but I just don't think it didn't bring in the money that they probably expected. Like, people didn't take premium scenes. Not sure why, because it is a great book, and
Yeah,
you
definitely.
see Bloodbound, which is one of Choice's most popular series. Um, I definitely don't think the love interests are good, but they're not as good as the ones in Bloodbound. It's definitely more of a storybook than a love interest book, I think. I did enjoy both female love interests in it, but not as much as I enjoyed romancing Camilla in Bloodbound. Um, and uh, and I think you're right. I think the stories that came out around it, because Open Heart Book One was an amazing book. It was really well done. The story, the story with Miss Martinez and that drama, it was just really well done. And that I was really excited for Book Two when Now and ended, because I thought Book Two we were going to get Aurora or Sienna as a love interest. I thought we were going to get more cases like what we did with Miss Martinez, and then it became just a story about Ethan,
Okay.
and then they just really dropped the other love interests a lot in Book
Mm,
Two, and they just not like I think I saw that like the writers had changed between Book One and Book Two, and they didn't the characters weren't written the same in Book Two and Book Three as what they did in Book One for Open Heart. Um, and I just think the real reason Nightbound, while it's a great story, I just don't think it was as popular as they were expecting. And I think on the opposite end, I think Ride or Die was a lot more popular than expected, because I don't think Ride or Die was ever. I think that was always meant to be a standalone, and they decided to do a possible sequel because of how popular it was. So I think it's like the other side of the coin. Ride or Die was a lot more popular than they expected, and Nightbound wasn't as popular as they expected.
mm. Yeah, so that was that. Yeah, I totally get that point, and I think you're totally correct because the choices editor Max, I think the CEO, yeah, I think when he said when that blog post was out about cancellation of books, he definitely said the same thing. Like, because people have different taste, and we know that this book is gonna be liked, but they like the books that you think, well, no one's gonna like. So yeah, and yeah, it's about that.
Yeah, because I mean, right now, if I think Choices really has a problem, because right now they're gonna have to find a way to create series again, because we're running out of books that are going to be series. Because I don't see Nanny Affair. I don't see how they could do a book three of Nanny Affair.
Neither can I.
I don't see. I mean, they might be able to drag Queen Bee into a third book, but
Possible.
I don't see what they can do without just dropping the quality of it and having a good. I just don't think there's enough story in Queen Bee for a book three. The royal romance is finally ending. They just started the last book. And then I think the only other series we have right now is Blades. So I feel like one of the books in the fall, or they're gonna have to find a way. I think Wake the Dead has potential to be a series.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely has. And even
Um,
Crimes of Passion, it
I think Laws of Attraction has a chance to be a series, but I feel like the way it's going. I feel like it's going to be a standalone.
which one?
Laws of Attraction. I feel like they
No,
can't they
yeah,
can make it a series, but it feels like the way they're writing it, it's a standalone.
yeah.
I would be
I,
shocked if it has a book two
hmm.
because it just feels like they're writing it as a standalone.
I
But
also.
the only thing I could think is maybe they took the hiatus to change the ending to make it a sequel because it's seems like a popular book right now.
Hmm. Yeah, could be. But what gives me hope about Crimes of Passion is that they mentioned Crimes of Passion in the FBI book first. And they've been working on it for a long time. So last year around October, they put out a post on Instagram, like, guess is what? So there was like a star sign on the floor with blood. And this was from Crimes of Passion. And then they, in the blog post later, mentioned we're going to make a book, Crimes of Passion, that we've been talking about for a long time. And what about another book that we're going to release where you argue the cases that in court? So the laws of attraction, like, sort of, it came, the idea I think came after Crimes of Passion, but the laws of attraction got released before, a lot, way before Crimes of Passion. Crimes of Passion is probably going to be released just like Foreign Affairs released last year toward the end. So I think they're giving it time, just like Blades of Light and Shadow. So perhaps it's going to be like the popular series we're looking for after, with the Wake the Dead, because I have high expectation from Wake the Dead. Then it can, both can go for a series. Who knows?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, I'm really hoping they make Wake the Dead a horror and not like I want a book that's like Dawn of the Dead. That's what I want out of Wake the Dead. So I'm really hoping they go that direction with it, especially since it's coming out October.
Yeah, Halloween. Yeah.
So if you're gonna release it during Halloween, sorry, if you're gonna release it during Halloween season, I think you have to make it a horror. So I'm optimistic.
Yeah.
But I've been optimistic by books in the past year, and like Foreign Affairs, I was really optimistic for that, and it just disappointed me. Like the the scandal was lame. Like two people skinny dipping is not a scandal. I don't care what they try to say, but nobody cares about two two young adults skinny dipping.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. That was that. And also, I think that was like, it could have swallowed it, but I think the biggest gamble was toward the end. Like the main villain. I mean, you were saying like, look, he's the villain, and right next one you were saying, well, we got him. So that was the biggest. I mean, biggest flopper ever, because it's just it happened so fast, like, in within a blink of an eye. I mean, that was super short at the end.
Yeah, they definitely dropped the ball with Foreign Affairs with what they could have did with it.
Hmm. I
So
mean,
I mean, I'm optimistic about the books coming in the fall because I'm excited for Queen Bee book two. I'm excited for White the Dead. I'm not excited for Surrendered. Not excited for that book at all. I'll play it. I expect it to be horrible, but
it's gonna be VIP.
you know, I don't. I don't think so. I feel like I mean they're gonna have to have a book in the fall that's VIP because I mean Shipwreck starts this month. And
So
if it goes six, I mean, they've only done one VIP at a time. So if it goes 16
4 months.
chapters, or if it goes 16 chapters, then it's going to be 4 months. So that takes us to like winter. So, I
And then
mean,
some.
if they go with that, then Surrendered is probably not VIP
Hmm,
unless they're going to start it after Shipwreck, and then that's the VIP book for the winter.
definitely. Yep. So yeah. So I personally feel like the last 4 years of this month, it's gonna be really awesome, because um, I think Laws of Attraction had come to a conclusion, and also these other books like Queen Bee book, I'm super excited about, and I think Nanny Affairs will have its climax. We'll see how it goes there, and two big books, Crimes of Passion, Wake the Dead, and I'm excited about Wake the Dead, like you said, Halloween, and how it goes, because I'm really waiting for a proper horror book. because just the zombie thing, like how they can build it. Because and I'd like to get to Nightbound. Was actually we're talking about earlier. It was a really good book in terms of horror book and New Orleans, sort of the nightlife and the picture they portrayed. It was just like Halloween, sort of fun also, but dark creatures. It was a really good book. But they talked about werewolves in this year's Wolf Pride book. I mean, the book, the way they did it was the good book, but the supernatural genre, yeah, they have supernatural creatures, but it's also just like Nanny affair or something. Like it became a romance novel. I think they could have done more with like really supernatural stuff and more horror things. So that was missing, and I do hope that Wake the Dead is not like that, and it is actually like Nightbound or It Lives Beneath.
Yeah, I definitely think Wake the Dead has to be more on the pace of like the It Lives series.
Hmm.
There has to be there has to be the suspense there. You have to have a chance to lose characters. Like one of the reasons I like It Lives Beneath more than It Lives in the Woods is that It Lives Beneath. You're building you're building the courage throughout the book, and it's people have their courage checks earlier in the book. Like you have Parker who if you don't pass his courage check, then he just leaves the story. So you have those high stakes
Hmm.
where it lives in the woods. You have you can everybody can die at the end. So I like having I like having those little character checks throughout the book rather than all at the end.
Yeah.
Because you could play where let you can either make sure that Parker has enough courage that he stays with you till the end, or you can play where he leaves the story. He's gone for the end of the story because he doesn't have enough courage after shooting the sheriff.
Oh, that I didn't play that. I mean that part. So for me, Parker was around alive till the end. So thank God. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
So
totally.
the first time I played, I didn't have enough courage with Parker. So I had enough courage with the other three characters. So like Imogen kept her power. Danny didn't betray the group, and you didn't lose your finger. Tom defended you, so you didn't lose your finger. For Parker, I don't the character of Parker bores me. I think he's a really boring character. I know there's people who love him, but I just found him as a really boring uh, police character. So for me, the first time I played it, I didn't spend any diamonds on him at all, and he ended up shooting. He accidentally shot the sheriff and killed the sheriff, and then just leaves. Like he can't deal with the guilt, and he just leaves the group, and he's gone for the rest of the book. You get a letter from him at the end saying that he's trying to get over it, but he's not in the last chapters because he didn't pass the courage check when I played.
Well, that's dark. That's really dark. For me, yeah. For me, he was around and everyone, and I think for me, I sort of I didn't expect Parker to be a love interest. The way we at the end of first chapter when we see Parker on the boat, where we were partying with Imogen and others, but yeah, but. I liked Parker's character sort of. I mean, he was really protective of our main character and everything, but yeah, but that's really wow. I never knew that if he didn't have enough score, so I thought maybe he would die just, but he would leaving. So that's well, so different.
Yeah, he just takes off, he leaves, and he's not part of the last chapters.
Do you know what happens with other ones if you don't have enough high nerve score?
I I do know Imogen, if you don't have enough nerve, she loses her ability to talk to animals, but she does stay till the end. I know Danny decides to, when you get to the point where they offer her money to save her, like money for her family, if she betrays everybody. I know her nerve check is that she decides to betray and for the money, but I don't. I always romance Danny, so I don't know if she leaves or not. But I know that's what her nerve check was, whether she betrays the group or not. And every time I played, she didn't betray, so I don't know what happens. And I do know for Tom, he does stay till the end no matter what. But if he doesn't have enough nerve, then you lose your finger. because he doesn't have enough nerve to help uh, you fighting one of the monsters.
Oh, that's super interesting. Yeah. Um, yeah, Tom definitely has more history with these creatures than anyone in that book because he's been there since It Lives in the Woods. So that was really super awesome that they included a character from the previous book.
Yeah, it was a nice touch of using that character because then it opens up the door to be able to go back to that to the town and see that you get the scene where you see all the characters from the first book and get some more story on the myth from the characters in the first book. You get to see whoever lived from the first book.
Definitely.
So I thought it was good because he was really a minor character in book one, and then they were able to take that and turn him into one of the main characters in book two.
Mm, yeah, that was super awesome. I mean, yeah. All in all, Wake the Dead needs to be like you said, it lives in beneath or Nightbound. The horror element has to be there because it's Halloween. It's coming near that, and it needs
Yeah,
to
like
top it.
I think yes, you're gonna have, of course it's gonna have romance elements. That's
Yeah, of
choices.
course.
You're not gonna have any choices book without romance,
No, no,
but
no. Of course.
it has to have stakes where you're worried about the characters. If you don't make the right choices, you can lose a character.
Yeah. I mean, I totally understand having the romance or maybe hookup scenes here and there. I totally agree with that. But I think, it can just be, I can't remember a book off the top of my head that I can example as, but, like it has like super drama, like all the time you're dealing with monsters, escaping death sort of. And then, it can have three chapters, interval of three chapters, and then you have one intimate moment with this. And first you get to know them slowly, then you have to get a little bit kissing scenes and little intimate moments with all the allies. You're given the diamond scenes, then you choose one and then you go with them. So definitely the love interest aspect is gonna be there, but if you punch it up well with the adventure part, then it becomes a really good book. But otherwise, just every chapter, like some of the romance books now, it just kind of gets boring without the main horror and adventure. That's that.
Yeah, yeah. You I find the best books are the ones that have a nice mix of either mystery and romance or horror and romance.
Yeah, for instance, Heist of Monaco. Did you play that? But Heist Monaco, I think the book's name is.
Yeah, yeah, Heist Monaco. Yeah, I love that book. It's a really good book.
Of course. So you here
Um,
again. So you have like there is like a slow burn or there's a good love story between Sonia and your main character, but also you have full of like adventure. There lots of drama. So in equal amount. So that's why it's like
yeah,
one of the
and
best.
there's so many different ways to play that book because you can each time you play you can have a different crew because
Yeah.
you're choosing your crew so you can mix and match, have different stories. You get the good ending, the mid ending, and the bad ending. So you have three options to get three types of endings plus different dialogue throughout the book because you can change who your crew is.
Mm, yeah.
So each time you
That
play, you can pick a different crew and you see how those characters interact with each other. So there's so many different ways to. Like I would have loved for them to do a sequel for that, but I understand why because that would have been a huge book to write because you're writing so many different
yeah.
storylines because you for each crew member you're choosing between two so you can mix and match as you play and each time you mix and match that's going to change. It's not going to
Yeah.
change the full story, but it's going to change some of the dialogue scenes.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Yeah, I understand that, but I don't complain it there because it was one book, but the feeling was worth it because it's a long book. I think the first two chapters took me a long time because a lot of things happen. Like you're saying, the mix and match there. You can have like the I don't know the bluebird, the soccer mom, and then either that that thief's son who's a hacker. So and you can get them together. You can get a different story, or you can get someone else. So I have so far played two where I don't think I have the dad and son together. So I am hoping to play sometime soon where I can get the dad and son together, so I can have the drama between them, inside. So yeah, it's just you can. This is, I think, one of the books and choices that you can play multiple times and still have something new.
Yeah, like I still like I've never taken the dad because I always go um, with the other character. Um, I have played with the son. I have played with the other hacker. I've played with both drivers. I've played with both muscles, but I've never taken Nigel, the dad.
Oh yeah. So I have taken him once, but with the Bluebird, the soccer mom, not with his son. So, and I think it says if you choose both the son and the dad, you're gonna unlock special scenes throughout the book between the dad and son, so their relationship. So I gotta check
Yeah,
that out. Yeah. So maybe sometimes in future I'm gonna play that. Yeah, definitely a good book. Yeah. So we're talking about Open Heart earlier. She said, I think Open Heart book two was it kind of went in when in hiatus and it came back, and then so there was like on and off, on and off. But when it came back the last time from hiatus, I think the book was really, with this Raphael thing. It really was eventful because it was literally taking me 1 hour or something to read the whole book because a lot of things are going on. I needed to process that. Toward the end, it was really awesome. So book two was really nice. I mean, book one's follow up from chapter 11, it was really nice. But from book three, kind of started, but then kind of lost his sort of the direction and momentum.
yeah. So for me, like I said, I loved all of book one. I
Mm.
really didn't like the beginning of book two. I loved the first, 3, 4 chapters after the hiatus. I loved because it actually looked like they made good changes. But then they went right back to the old style at the end of book two, and then book three was a mess.
Mm.
So I mean, the only thing I really liked about book two was the scenes around when you're sick and Raph is
Yeah,
sick and
Raphael.
and
Yeah.
everybody's working together to save you. I loved those chapters, but then it went right back to back to the Ethan story, and then book three. It's the less you say about it, the better, probably, because it just wasn't a good book. It was very messy. The characters didn't act like themselves in that book. Like they changed who the characters were from what you got to know them. And I really didn't enjoy the series. Like I didn't buy any diamond scenes in book three. I just played for the diamonds, and when it was done, it was done.
Mm. Yeah. But in book three, I think did have the potential because how Bloom was portrayed, he was it sort of, I think, feel like Kane was, but still, like, Bloom, to some people he was and total he was a total evil, and to some people he was like doing something good, loves his wife, and even if he's doing it for himself, his wife. If he becomes successful, he's gonna help the humanity in one way or another. So I think even in book it was that when Bloom went for the kidneys without waiting in the line, just tried to bought it with his money. Our main character feels it's totally wrong, but Raphael says, well, if you try to buy just or get one more day to live with among your loved ones, wouldn't you do that? So sort of, I think they tried to portray Bloom as sort of this mixture or a superposition of a good guy and a bad guy, depending on how you see them. So it was going really well, but then Bloom sort of vanished, and then he came back as a total evil guy. I don't know what happened, but how did you feel about that? Because I was liking that, but then they sort of went on
I
off track.
I did understand his motivations because, like you said, if I had the money, I mean, if my wife was sick and I had the money to cure her, then I would,
Yeah,
I would do everything I can to save her because she's the love of my life.
yeah.
But I found like whenever they did use him in book three, he was like just a cartoon villain. Like he was just over the top with, and they got away from that morality argument of you know if should the rich have access to everything. That was a good story to tell because it's you see both sides. Like I
Mm,
can't say that if I was rich I wouldn't take advantage of some of that stuff, but I do feel like everybody, like I live in Canada where we have universal health care for the most part. Like I can go to the hospital without having to worry about being going bankrupt. Whereas in the States, if you don't have insurance, then you
Well,
almost don't want to go to the hospital because you feel like it's just going to bankrupt you.
yeah, definitely.
It's like so I liked that side of the story of what how do you justify that part. But then in book three they took him away from that and just made him a cartoon villain. Like he was just there to mess with Ethan, and then it became too much of Ethan's story and Ethan's drama
Yeah.
because of Bloom being a cartoon villain.
Yeah, I understand the part. Like they tried to add some more love interest, like Jackie, Raphael, pretty like at the end of book two almost, and then there was this Lahela guy. But I understand because it's just like like in Queen Bee, you have more affection toward your professor. So in this book also, like your boss, Ethan Ramsey. So you learn from him because Ethan had a lot of affection and a lot of respect for Naveen when he was a newbie, and when our main character came in as a newbie, he had the respect and everything with Ethan, and then also outside the professional respect, you also can develop love interest sort of between our main character and Ethan. So I understand why it was deemed to be that Ethan centered, because even if you don't choose Ethan as a love interest, at the end you're gonna find Ethan and you're gonna talk about him, and sort of it's gonna be really interesting in your life. If moving on as Doctor. So I think at the start, if they made Ethan a gender customizable and race customizable love interest, instead of going with, because I think just adding more love interest, and if you're not gonna give them time, it would have been better just going with Ethan and make it gender customizable, race customizable. That would have made more sense, and I think it's a good story if you just see if you choose as Ethan as a love interest. I mean, the way it progresses, and it just it's like how the stories go you see in movies and stuff. But I understand like some people didn't like him because, but if it were gender customizable, race customizable, I think more people would have liked that plot, and they could have played it with Ethan. And also
Yeah,
so
but
that's, I think, the drawback.
yeah, if we go in that direction, like if you had made Open Heart a single love interest book, then you get into the same problems you're having with Nanny Affair, where you have a part of the reader base that loves Sam and wants to be them, but then you got the part that wants to romance Jordan or wants to romance Robin. So I just think it would have been too much like what happened with the Nanny Affair. If you had made that, I thought it was fun. Like I thought they did a good job spreading out the premium scenes in book one. It's really at the Ethan wasn't a bad character in book one because you had enough scenes with Bryce, Raph, and Jackie, and then you had scenes where it looked like it was going to be a slow burn with Aurora or Sienna,
Yeah,
and that they would become love interests in book two. But then you
even
get book two, and you didn't get Sienna and Aurora as love interests, and then you didn't get enough scenes with Bryce, Jackie, or Raph. It was all scenes with Ethan.
hmm, yeah,
So it
yeah.
was some reason they couldn't repeat what they did in book one, and that was the huge problem.
Yeah, I mean that's why I was saying like a lot of people got turned out because if Ethan were gender customizable, race customizable, that would have been super awesome. And yeah, it could have been like slow burn. I mean slow burn book. I'm talking about like where you have one main love interest who is the main who is gender customizable, love race customizable, but it can have other love interests like there was Julia, I think. So it could have had Jackie, it could have had Bryce, it could have had and yeah, there would have been the equal time thing still, but I still think they could have done this because I understand Ethan is our mentor, and as a friend we can help him. Like all the scenes when Ethan is going through some stuff, some drama, there should be some drama. I have no problem. Like in America's Most Eligible, even we choose one love interest, but we go through Mackenzie's drama, Adam's drama, other people's drama. That's totally fine. But the dimensions, yeah, we can also spend diamond to solve their problem. But the problem is with the dimensions, the problem is that we're given the dimension just not to solve the problem of Ethan, but we are given this option, hey, solve his problem and have an erotic moment with him. Just, I don't know, like what kind of things, like try this new sex dress or something. So that was inappropriate. I mean, totally, because that late in the book, maybe I'm not in for Ethan. So yeah, but I want to help him. I want to help him. I want to take the diamonds and just help him, but not that part. So they could have kept it separate. So I help him, and then the 30 diamond they could have divided into 15 for helping him, and there's another 15 after the day we had. We can just spend it with our love interest of our choice, who we choose. So that would have made more sense, I think.
Yeah, that definitely could have worked that way. It's just if you're gonna have multiple love interests, you have to make sure everybody's getting a fair chance for who they want to be with.
Again, Big Sky Country, it was good. Equality, it was good. I mean, we got time with everyone.
Yeah, and I mean, same with with uh, with the rural romance. I mean, even though you're meant to be with Liam, you get good scenes with all of them throughout book one, and throughout book two until you actually choose who your
Yeah.
choice is. You get good scenes with all of them. Like you get the piano, you get the scene where you get to watch Hannah play piano. You get the scene where you can, have a nightcap with Drake. So each love interest is getting scenes, even though Liam is the forced love interest and who they want you to be with. You're getting good scenes with everybody. So if you're going to have multiple love interests, you got to make sure you're sharing the wealth.
I totally agree with that. I mean, old days like Royal Romance, America's Most Eligible, High School Story, Freshman, it was like that. We did have equal scenes, and at equal scenes, it was not like from the first chapter. First, it was like, hey, let's hook up, but first you don't know. It is how genuinely things work. Even it was kind of dramatic, but still, it was like you talk with them. You have some light connection. You like slightly flirt with them, just really genuine. And then you are in the moment, whatever you're doing, and sort of you're getting closer, closer. You're getting to know them. You're solving their problem and having little moments, intimate moments, and then toward the end, you are having these big, intimate moments like the scene. So that was, I think, totally a good pace.
Yeah, I mean, and even the older books still had their problems. Like clearly, freshmen, they clearly wanted you to be with Chris. Like he was clearly, I just replayed it, so it's fresh in my mind. But even if you don't romance him at all, at the end they act like you had a relationship with him, even though you never did. If you didn't romance him, so I mean, they've always done that forced love interest, who the writers want you to choose. Hopefully they get away from that, where they write a wide enough story where not one character is forced on you, other than a single love interest book where there's you're going to be with that character no matter what.
Mm. Yeah, totally agree with that. But even though, correct me if I'm wrong, in Freshman you get equal scenes with almost with Caitlin and with the James, I think the bookish guy.
I do think it's pretty equal between James and Caitlin, and then Chris is the forced. Like you get a lot with Chris if you take them. At least at the beginning of the book. Towards the end, it gets a little more equal. But even then, like I took nothing. I did no scenes with Chris, and at the end, he acts like I had a relationship with him.
Hmm. Yeah, I also believe that. But yeah, but I think Chris, a lot of people also liked also Chris, so that was not a problem. But yeah, so and I think they go with the majority. That's one thing, because also like why Ethan was pushed, because a lot of people liked Ethan, so there's like a totally new fandom with Ethan Ramsey, like a Choices fandom. Like there's parallelly a different fandom like Ethan Ramsey. A lot of people liked him, and they even write their own fan fiction. So Ethan is so popular. It's like so I understand. Like I had the same feeling for Jen even when I was first playing America's Most Eligible. So that's why I think they got the output Ethan, and then they made more Ethan times because Ethan was popular.
Oh no, absolutely. Like I understand why they did it. I mean, at the end of the day, they're a business. They need to make money.
Money,
You know,
yeah,
and the people who love Open Heart loved Ethan.
yeah,
So
like
I understood why it went that way. It I think they could have still did that and still could have had good Ethan scenes without taking away from the other love interests.
yeah, like I said, yeah, they could have just separated the helping scenes with romance, and I think like this is Open Heart is just the one book from a trilogy series where we're in the third book and we're still not decided on a love interest. So they could have given Ethan the whole every scene they could have, but they should have at the end of book two they should have because they didn't add any new love interest in book three. So at the end of book two they should have given us the option like choose one love interest, make him your boyfriend or girlfriend, and then go on from there. So that they should have done that at the end of book two.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming out of that, coming out of the medical emergency where you get sprayed with the poison, and they all band together to save you. Coming out of that, you should have been able to go through that experience and be able to choose your love interest at the end of book two, like you said, and then you have book three where you're spending it with whoever your choice was.
Yeah, that should have been the case, but it was not the case. So that was one sad part. But yeah, overall, I mean, in terms of nostalgic feeling, so it was almost end of an era when Open Heart ended because it did give us nice feelings in 2019 or 2018 when it was releasing. It was good.
Yeah, well, I think by the time Open Heart 3 ended, I think people were just ready for it to be over because book 3 just it wasn't a good book. And I think even the people who love Ethan, at the end were just saying, I don't like nobody really liked what they did with book 3.
Yep. But again, like just for the nostalgia, just for like the characters we loved, they played it and it was like really worth. Like, yeah, that was that. Um, and also, did you play the book My Two First Loves? I think it was released around this time last year.
Yes, I did. I played it as it was being released.
I did too, and actually I really liked the notion of because at that time it was mostly lockdown and stuff, in even more than today is, and I felt like weekly books. I used to forget what happened last week, and daily books I was just really good, and even the chapter lengths are really short, so you can just read them and then wait for the next day's book. It was really good idea, and the whole concept of my two first serves, I liked it. It was good.
I thought it was a good concept. I don't think it was good delivery.
Hmm.
I I feel like number one they didn't use Ava properly for 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 what I really feel like Ava was tossed in later as a love interest,
Yeah,
just because they realized they had to have a female love interest,
yeah,
and a lot of it just the MCs just wasn't the most likable MC, with what they did. They painted, they kept painting you into corners of trying to force the hand with Mason, and it took way too long to let you choose who you wanted to be with, because most people knew who they wanted their love interest to be by chapter 40, chapter 50, and then they could have had a large stretch where you're with the one Li, similar to letting you choose who you want to be with in Open Hearted book. At the end of book two, they should have let us choose who we wanted to be with. And we really didn't get to make that choice till like chapter 97, 98, went out of a 100 chapter book.
hmm. Well, I think after the revelation of the the theft that happened and what went down that day, like what Noah did, and so after the whole thing around chapter 60 or 70, when we were going to the trip, I think around that time they should have let us choose the option. But I know because still at that time, like we didn't know Ava as well as we knew Mason and Noah. So that was a time like when we got to know Ava because we literally didn't know anything about Ava. because we
Yeah,
didn't have scenes with Ava.
yeah, because they didn't develop her properly. Because I don't feel like she was ever meant to be a love interest until like the very like later in development when they realized they needed a female love interest.
So who did you choose as a love interest for your main character?
I went with Ava.
Ava. Okay. I personally went with Mason because the boy next door. Actually, I should say because I felt like the first chapter, the music, sort of the with every heartbeat music we get there, it kind of sealed it for me for Mason because I just knew MC and Mason had to be together. The boy next door, and but the story was great. Ups and downs. I felt like, but yeah, it was at some point like stretched. They could have like condensed it a little bit more, but yeah, still like as a first daily releasing book, it was a good experiment, I would say.
Oh no, absolutely. It was worth for them to try it. And there's parts of it that I enjoyed. Like I liked what they did showing, you know, police brutality. I liked how that tied in. I like how, the dialogue can change if you make your main character if you make your main character black, the dialogue changes. So I like those aspects of it. I just wish that they had let you choose a love interest earlier in the book, gave Ava more character development earlier in the book. But the biggest thing I loved about it is that it it was very easy to discuss it with people because it's a daily release. So
Exactly.
it definitely brought up a lot of discussion with people on Twitter that and that's one of the things I like about choices now is that I can go on after chapters are released and talk about it with people. So it was nice having that daily chapter to discuss with people, the good and the bad.
Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely. This was a really nice book, and hopefully they release something else that's going to be releasing daily in the future because that was an exciting thing. Um, so you played Endless Summer, right? Recent, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I
again, I
just finished replaying it
played.
a few weeks ago.
Yeah. So, what ending did you choose?
I went with Everybody Stays on the island.
Yeah, I did that too. So I think that's the best ending because also like how Alistair says at one point, like the future he saw that can be done on La Huerta, and I think Rourke's ending would be defeating the whole purpose of our struggle that we went through throughout the time, and the ending where we go back, like we literally become part of Vanu and we die. I think that's also kind of defeats the purpose, and also on top of that, I think. Just because we were back all the main character friends, they were in the world in like in their daily lives, but they were not happy. Like Diago wasn't himself and he felt alone. Other people, they had their own problem, so they came to La Huerta as they are, but La Huerta gave them friendship, gave them partner, gave them a group for lifetime. So I think gave them purpose. So I also thought like this was the best I think out of the three options that, but all the three options I played one and I watched the playthroughs of the other. It was really emotional, all of them. I mean, wow.
Yeah, the staying on the island is my personal favorite, but I actually feel like the sacrificing your one is the best one for the story because the entire point of the entire story is saving your friends. Like, the endless replays everything over and over again because she's trying to make sure everybody lives.
Mm.
So, at the end, if you make that decision to sacrifice yourself, they all get their lives back. They have their families. They still have each other. Yes, they lose the main character, but they still have their lives and their families and each other, which was the point. The Endless wanted everybody to be able to live, which is why they replayed everything thousands of times, and lived through seeing every death over and over again because they
Yeah.
were trying to get to the point where everybody could live. And one of the reasons they tricked the tribe into believing they were a god was
Mm.
so that the tribe wouldn't just kill everybody. Um, it opened it up to making sure that they lived, and it took over 3,000 tries. So I think storyline sacrificing yourself is it's the ending that fits the story the best, but it's not the most satisfying ending. The most
Yeah,
satisfying ending for me is staying on the island with everybody.
for me too. For me too. Yeah, I think the sacrificing thing is just also it hurts because for the endless, I don't think he had like a proper some love interest. I don't know, like in because he had like all of endings, but for this particular ending, we had a love interest, and it just you got married like 1 or 2 chapters
Well,
ago, and you sacrificed. They're gonna be widow after that, so that just
yeah.
hurts.
Well, I'm not sure if it's a premium scene or not, but one of the scene where you could see the end all the endless's memories,
Oh yeah, premium
and
scene.
it shows that in every timeline you still fell in love with your chosen love interest. Like for
Yeah,
me, it showed every different timeline with me falling in love with Estella,
okay,
because
yeah,
my chosen love interest was Estella. So
same.
it showed each time, no matter what, you always fell in love with her. So I think that opens up the door for choosing Rourke's ending, where nobody remembers you, but you have that optimism that I made that girl fall in love with me over 3,000 times. I'll do it again.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, I chose Queen, so it was even worse. Queen had her disease back, so it was hell. And yeah, and the thing with this is that with this ending, Rourke's ending. I think someone commented in one of the videos of playthroughs on YouTube that if you play Rourke's ending, nobody literally remembers you, and Rourke is like the king there, the evil sort of king, and
Yeah, he's
I
like the
think
emperor.
Varen is been captivated, and not Diago, Jake and his friend Mouse. I think they're also held inmates. So I think someone commented that as much as I hate the Rourke's ending, it gives me most hope for a sequel, because if you choose Rourke's ending, and almost it feels like there is a sequel there, because the MC is saying well, we stopped Rourke once, so I can do it again. So from there, I mean, if they would have gone with that, it would have been the best satisfying spin-off to Endless Summer, I believe now.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely, because you get it's getting, going through the. I think you could have had either a fourth, if you went that route, you could have had a fourth book or a spin-off where, you have to go find everybody and make them remember.
Yeah,
So you're like, you're gathering the team again. So, each chapter you're going through and helping them realize who they were on the island, and then working together to stop Rourke. So uh, if you go that route, then definitely it opens it up. It's an ending where it's hopeful, because you're like, oh, I'll just make sure all these people remember me, and get to know them again.
hmm. Yeah, that was
But
the
then you're
best.
dealing with Rourke as the emperor of the world.
Hmm. Yeah,
So that's my least favorite of the three.
yeah.
I'm, but usually when I play now, I just go with the ending where everybody just stays on the island, and you stay. You get your happily ever after with your love interest on the island.
Hmm. Yeah. But I like I said, yeah, I totally agree with you, and I just wish they had, just this as the ending of book three, the Rourke's ending, and from there, if they had given this book a spin-off, because this was a short book, because the end book had just 12 chapters, so I think it would have been satisfying to see a spin-off in this form, because wow, I mean, when I read the comment, I was like. I could have imagined, but again, this is what it is. I mean, the story's finished there, but now, like you said earlier, that it's up to your imagination. So, yeah,
Yeah,
but
and I feel
just
like at that point the writers were probably just ready to move on to new characters. At that
yeah,
point, you've wrote 3 books.
mm,
You've spent a lot of time with those characters. At a certain point, you're ready to move on and write something else.
Yeah, I agree with that. But speaking of the characters, I think the Endless Summer had the most interesting characters and most number of characters in a book. And the way they were developed, all of main characters' friends, they had distinct characters and sort of how they develop, how they learn, grow into the best and highest version of themselves, and how everything evolves. I mean, there was no way you could listen to their, how they talk, but the writing just gives everything. Alistair, I don't think they mentioned Alistair being British, but when I used to read, I thought like, oh, is it British? Because at the end, I found out he was British. So
Yeah.
just Greg, it was super awesome. I mean, the way they wrote it, it just made the whole characters come to life. Unbelievable.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like just recently is when I finally took the chance to take a lot of the diamond scenes, and like this last playthrough, I took a lot of the diamond scenes I hadn't taken before, and there's just so much more story when you take the premium scenes, especially with the endless. Like if you take the premium scenes and do it properly, you meet the endless at the end of book 2
Yeah.
instead of meeting them in book 3.
Hmm.
So it's really well done, but it's done in a way where it's still satisfying even if you don't take the diamond scenes. Because I loved it before I took the diamond scenes, and I loved it more after I took the diamond scenes. But either way, I still loved the book no matter what. So it was really well done in a way that they told a good story without having to spend diamonds, but you get a better story if you take the diamonds.
Of course. I mean, yeah, it was a great story. I mean, and again, one the good example of like how you can have good story and also intimate moments here and there. So and you get a really good product out.
Yeah.
Definitely, endless summer.
All right. So I do have to go now. I got some plans.
Oh yeah, sure. And I was sort of getting at the end anyway. So and again, thank you for coming in and joining. And it was a really nice time discussing about charts and all the books we talked about, the theories we discussed. And thanks.
Oh no, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. Anytime. It was fun. It was fun having a conversation and talking about a book, an app that we both love.
Oh yeah, sure. So hopefully have you in future sometimes even in some group with Martian Cat and some others. It would be super fun to hang out together.
Yeah, no, definitely. Let me know, and I'm sure we can work out a time that works out for everybody. Just let me know when you'd like to. I'd be more than happy to join you again.
Okay, yeah. Stay safe. Take care. Have a nice day.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.